Today we are going to look at something that is very important in the life of a believer. Psalm 91:3 says, we'll have to be very careful about the snares of the fowler. The fowler is the devil that keeps some snares for us in our lives. Snares are unconscious things that we get into, the unconscious thing that we get trapped into without our knowledge, without our conscience. He traps us into certain things and then he makes us struggle there. We got to be very careful of these snares. One snare is the snare of busyness. We become so busy that we don't have time for God. We become so busy that we don't have time for worship. We become so busy that we don't have time for prayer. And so this busyness is a snare that a believer has to be very careful about. Friend, see whether you have become so busy for God and set your life straight, and then your spiritual life will improve and be healthy. Secondly, the snare of prayerlessness. Suddenly you will find that it has been weeks since you prayed, since you really had good time with God, since you spent time with God. Prayerlessness can suck out the energy of a believer and make him very tired spiritually. Very tired spiritually. The fowler will get us into this snare. Without our conscience, we will get into this snare and then we will struggle and suffer. The third snare we have to be very careful of is wordlessness. There will not be any word. Where there is no word, there will not be strength, there will not be faith. So wordlessness is another snare that the devil will slowly, unconsciously try to put us into. He will keep us away from the word. He will keep us away from the word. We got to be very careful about that. The next snare is our own smartness. We think we are smarter than God and we make certain moves in our life, certain decisions in our life. We try to be more smarter than God. That will never work. God will prove himself smarter than us, and that time it will be very bad. But here is the devil who puts this unconscious pride inside our heart, an unconscious self inside our heart, that we try to be more smarter than God. When God asks you not to do something, we go ahead and daringly do it, thinking that we will be able to handle it. We will be able to take care of it. I'll be able to handle it. I'm very good in this. That kind of a snare is a terrible snare that is coming from the devil to struck you inside a trap. Next snare we have to be very careful about is judging others externally. That is a very bad snare that a believer could get into. Looking at a person on the outside and judging him by his dress, judging him by his behavior, judging him by his joy and joylessness, judging him by what he does. This is another snare. Judging another person will discourage another person and stop him from coming to Jesus. And finally, the snare of aloofness. The snare of aloofness is a snare of drawing us away from believers, drawing away from fellowship, drawing away from everyone, and leading a very aloof life, leading a very lonely life. That is another snare that the devil will get us into. My friend, if you keep an eye on these snares, you can have a successful spiritual life. And what if you have fallen into these snares? What if you tell me, yes, Samson, I have fallen into these snares? This is where the promise of God comes to you from Psalm 91:3, that surely he will deliver you from the snares of the fowler. Slowly he will deliver you from the snares of the fowler. You can turn to Jesus today, openly confess to him that you have tried to be smarter than him, that you have tried prayerlessness, that you've gone wordlessness, that you've gone so busy that you don't have time for him. And God will move closer to you and set this gap straight and bring you back into fellowship with him. And then you can have a good and healthy life. So my friend, don't get discouraged because you are in a snare. You can come out of the snare now if you make a decision for Jesus. If you make a decision to follow Jesus, and if you make a decision to trust Jesus, you can make that decision now, and God will keep you away from the snares of the fowler. Thank you for listening. God bless you.